Its high walls were done in gray, a mixture of adobe and stone, and they looked like they'd been built 1,000 years ago. I found out later that they preceded the Russian period by many, many years. Aside from some metal guard towers that the Soviets had added, the enclosure looked like it belonged in an old Hollywood movie, a remote British outpost, as imagined by Warner Brothers. As the Chinook approached the landing zone just outside the walls, I allowed myself a quick mental picture of regimental banners and pit helmets. But then the LZ came into view and I got serious. The CH-47 Delta is a two-rotor twin-engine cargo helicopter that can carry more than 30 passengers, or 26,000 pounds of cargo. Two door gunners sit just behind the pilots, and there is sometimes an extra gunner on the rear ramp. Passengers exit the aircraft from the ramp, and this rear door exit is a little slower and more cumbersome than just hopping out of the open sides of a Blackhawk. If you're dropping into a hot landing zone, you have to do it seamlessly to clear the bird and quickly set up a defensive perimeter. Every member of the team understood how to execute that move, so I knew that once the helo touched down, everybody would be doing exactly what he was supposed to be doing. I wasn't mistaken. At touchdown, as the prop wash flew away from the bird, the 8 of us were down the ramp at a snap. In seconds, we dumped our bags and cargo clear and formed a 360-degree security position around the aircraft. Our objective was to secure the LZ and the aircraft, and to be in a defendable position once it lifted off and the operation began. Textbook stuff, really. On this particular LZ, though, once the Chinook lifted off and the dust settled, we saw that the landing area had already been secured. It was being overwatched by the post guard towers and by a couple of gun trucks just off the LZ. Before I could stand up, I heard a familiar voice laughing at us for having successfully secured an already secure landing zone. "Looks super, guys. If you're done practicing infill techniques, we can unload the gear." Wearing a t-shirt, jeans, and the first hints of the beard that SF guys are obliged to grow in country, there was our team sergeant, Randy Durr, raising a hand in greeting. "Good to see you," he said. "Welcome to ABAD." Up close, the exterior of the FOB continued to resemble the mud fortresses that the British had occupied in India. Inside, though, it looked much like any other army base. Covering an area equivalent to 3 or 4 football fields, it contained enough low buildings, some wooden, some adobe, to house, feed, provision, and train a garrison of 200 men. About 120 of these, we learned, were regular army, plus another 25 Afghan irregulars. Aside from a few CIA guys, the rest were Special Forces ODAs like ours. A few ODAs had been in Afghanistan since 2001. We were replacing one of these early arrivals, ODA 361. When they left, we would be one of 3 Green Beret units based at the post. The garrison also included 6 Afghan soldiers who had once been anti-Taliban militiamen and had recently been reconstituted as pro-coalition mercenaries. Randy explained that we were inheriting them from the outgoing ODA, and that the inheritance was sanctioned by ties of blood. The 6 were the nephews of a local warlord, a former mujahid named Malik Zarin, who was devoted to the Americans for reasons that probably had as much to do with self-interest as with love of country. According to Randy, when he agreed to loan the young men to us, he had first gathered them together in their village and said, "If anything happens to the Americans, don't come home." Talk about incentives. I wasn't entirely convinced of the nephew's devotion. I had heard enough about tribal allegiances to suspect that loyalty to Americans was a fungible commodity, but I was willing to wait and see. I put Randy in charge of their training and supervision, and hoped that, in developing a bond with him, they could become our ears and eyes as we worked with other indigenous troops in the future and interacted with local villages. We also inherited an interpreter. Mashal was an educated man from Jalalabad, and his fiancée was a teacher there. Randy said that ODA 361 had given him a glowing report, and in our first meeting, I understood why. He had a perfect beard, wore American-style battle dress, and had a chipper, contagious attitude. Working first with the CIA in 2001, and since 2002 with the ODAs, he was devoted to his country and loyal to the Afghan-American cause. After a successful operation, he would often thank us for leaving our families behind to help his country. He was a bright, hard-working ally and immensely likable. We were also joined at Asadabad by an additional weapons sergeant, Ian Waters. Ian was originally attached to the 20th Special Forces Group, but he was reassigned to us for the Hammerhead Six deployment. That brought the number of our Green Berets